So in answer to all those DMs, this is the best beginner lens. Not specifically the Sony 50mm 1.8, I'm talking about the 50mm 1.8, also known as the Nifty 50 across all brands. So I'm going to give you 6 reasons why this is the best lens to help you learn photography. It's affordable. You know, lenses are expensive, and they're expensive for good reason. You might change camera bodies every 5 years or so, but a good lens will last you your whole life, provided they don't change the formats and things like that. This lens, however, is pretty affordable. I'm talking about £150 or $250 second hand. And if you're a beginner, buying cheap lenses is a good idea because it's likely that you don't really know what your style is yet. So you want to get through as many lenses as possible and try a lot of things out just to figure out what it is that you really enjoy about photography. The likelihood is, as a beginner, that once you've figured out what a lens like this is good for, you will likely want something different quite quickly afterwards. So rather than committing all your money to one very expensive, very high quality lens, you're better off giving yourself a new opportunity to shoot in a different way so you can learn about that way and then give yourself that little bit more experience. So in short, in the beginning, you will want to try lots of different focal lengths to learn more, and the affordability of this lens will definitely help you with that. The next point, this lens will teach you about depth of field. Depth of field is the area of your photograph that's in focus. Many people will know this as the blurred background behind your subject. It's a really great way to isolate your subject and let the viewer know exactly what that photograph is about. You can blur the background, you can blur the foreground. It's a really great composition trick, and this lens will teach you how to do that. Now, depth of field is something that's very difficult to communicate if you don't understand what it's like to shoot with fast prime lenses. This is a fast prime lens because it is a fixed 50mm, which means it doesn't zoom in or out, and it is an f1.8 aperture lens. That means it lets in a lot of light, and the result of all of those things together gives you this shallow depth of field, which is a very blurred background and a very blurred foreground. Now, you could spend £1,000 on a zoom lens that does not give you that. It doesn't come with money, it comes with a particular type of lens, and this is the cheapest fast prime that you can get that will teach you about depth of field. From a beginner's point of view, this will actually be a very rewarding lens. You want to feel good about the photographs that you're taking, and the type of photograph that this takes is that classic sort of photographer, professional look. It doesn't always make professional photos, you can screw up with this as well, but I'm saying that the type of aesthetic that this type of lens brings is very rewarding from a beginner's point of view, because you finally feel that you're on the journey to becoming a professional photographer. The type of picture that you can take with this will let others know that you are serious about learning photography and your journey as a photographer. Now, you don't need a 50 to feel that way. You can feel that way about the gear you've got right now. You don't need new gear to feel like that. But if you're shooting on your kit lens, which is producing a certain type of photo, you're really enjoying it, or maybe you have a mobile phone and you're shooting a certain type of photo, the type of image that this will capture is very different to that, and as a result, it gives you that leap forward on your journey as a beginner photographer. So in summary, this is a very rewarding lens at a very low price. If you are used to a phone and you're looking at getting your first bit of gear, this will give you a whole new way of composing images. I'll be honest, you can learn pretty much every composition technique on a phone, things like leading line, rule of thirds, symmetry, those sorts of things. But this gives you a completely different perspective that a phone just simply cannot do. Because the 50mm focal length is a little bit more zoomed in, and more so on a crop sensor, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's more zoomed in. It will give you this sort of compression in the background that a phone won't do, even if it's zoomed in, because it's a digital zoom. So what I'm saying is that you can pretty much practice all types of photography on a phone and then apply that when you get a really good camera. But the lens compression and the depth of field that this gives you, you cannot learn on a phone because they just aren't capable of doing it. And even if portrait mode emulates it, it is not you doing it with settings, it is the phone doing it with computation. So that's not you learning. So what I'm saying is that when you upgrade your camera and you buy a nice fast prime lens like this, you are going to open up a whole load of opportunities and ways of composing that you can't do on a mobile phone. Now, another great point about this lens is it will upgrade with you. For example, if you're a beginner, you are likely going to be shooting on an APS-C sensor, which is this. This is a crop sensor. That's what I'm talking about. This is a full frame camera. So, for example, you can see that sensor size here. I know, dusty. I know, I'm a lunatic. You look at the different sensor size here, okay? That's important to note here. Now, this is a kit lens designed for a crop sensor camera. So what happens is, if I put it on here, it works. If I put it on here, it still works, but this camera will automatically crop its sensor to match the size of this lens. So what's happening is that your image is becoming a little bit more cropped in like this. This 50mm lens, on the other hand, can work on the crop sensor camera, but it acts a little bit more like an 85mm on a full frame lens. This is going to get a bit information heavy if I go too far on it, so I'm not going to go too far. All I'm saying is that this works perfectly on here, and it also works on here without any cropping. This is full frame lens that works on both. So to summarize that point, this lens will upgrade with you. You can start off with a crop sensor APS-C camera like this one, and then when you finally upgrade, then you can use it on here. Now this is the case with every full frame lens. It's just that full frame lenses tend to be really expensive, whereas this is priced at about the same amount as a normal APS-C lens, like this kit lens here. Now the next point is all about getting paid as a photographer. This is a great lens to get to start your journey getting paid as a photographer, to start producing images that people associate with that professional photographer look, particularly portraits. So for example, all those businesses and individuals out there who are currently taking photos on their mobile phone, which is great, you know, it's a good thing to be doing, they cannot produce the images that that particular lens or that particular focal length can produce. You know, while a phone is a great option for a small business and things like that, it just simply cannot produce the style of photo that this lens can produce for all the reasons we've talked about. So for example, I could take this budget setup, and I've done this in some of my videos, and take images, I could take portraits, I could do product shots, and I bet you no one would know that this was taken on I would call it a budget setup. You know, this is still good stuff, but it's a setup that has its limitations but is accessible to people who are just getting started in photography. I'm not saying this is the perfect setup, I'm just saying it's a really, really great way to get started getting paid as a photographer. Now I've used the Canon 51.8 and I've used the Sony 51.8, so I'll leave links to both of those in the description. I won't link to any other brands because I've not personally used them. I don't really feel comfortable linking to lenses that I haven't used, even though they're probably great, okay? Feel free to ask me any questions on Twitter, and if you want to come and say hi and check out my photography on Instagram, I'll leave links to those below. And I hope you found these useful. If you did, hit the like button. I'm Johnny Keeley. If you enjoy the content and you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. And if you do, I will see you in the next video.